Hello and welcome to another video. Now in this video we're going to be breaking down ground zero for amazing waves. I mean, Indonesia spans 21,000 different islands and many of those islands have incredible waves. The point of this video is to kind of give you an overview about what to expect from different parts of Indonesia, how to get around, some of the most famous spots. So after watching this, you'll come here equipped with all the information you need to make a trip happen. So the best time of year to surf in Indonesia is basically any time, really. I mean, the most well-known season is like the dry season, which is when they get the biggest swells, and many of the best spots are met with offshore winds. However, wet season can also have plenty of waves. You can also score waves like in the Mentawais and in Sumatra out of season, even at Lakies. Like, you can go there any time of year and get fun waves. So while there are so many waves across Indonesia, I guess the main focus, and I guess where you should base yourself for your trip, is Bali. I mean, Bali is like the capital of surfing in Indonesia. It's where most Indonesian surf trips start, and it's home to some amazing waves. And while it's definitely a pretty crowded and pretty hectic island to be on, there's some amazing waves. I guess first of all, we've got Uluwatu. It's a wave that put Indonesian surfing and Balinese surfing on the map. One of the first waves that was discovered here. Incredible wave, you know, on its day, it's just like a reeling left-hand point reef. With multiple sections. You've got temples at the top, which is like a hollow, slabby left, runs into the middle, like the peak section, which is just like a really wally, sick peak for turns, before going hollow and drainy again on the inside in the racetrack section. So that's the main wave in Uluwatu, and then all around the Bukit Peninsula, there's basically just dozens of world-class waves. You've got Padang Padang, you've got Bingin, you've got Dreamland Beach, you've got Nyang Nyang, Greenbowl, all of these like amazing waves all around this peninsula. As well, super consistent, doesn't really go flat even in wet season, and then in the dry season the area's met with the trade winds, which means it's basically always offshore. And when you get those groomed, like solid Indian Ocean swells in dry season, there's just like non-stop waves and non-stop action in this part of the world. Jumping over to the east coast of Bali, you've got Keramas, which is, I guess, one of the funnest waves in the world. Super high performance, really hollow, wally right-hander. Sick wave. Like everywhere else in Bali, it does get crowded as well. I wouldn't expect to head there and just get waves to yourself. And then heading back over to the west coast, you've got, I guess, the other major surf town in Bali in Canggu. So Canggu is kind of like a digital nomad, backpacker, surf town, party town. It's pretty hectic. It's really crowded, both in and out of the water. Again, if you're not somebody who likes crowds and the general hecticness, it's probably not for you. That said, the waves are really fun. You've got Old Man's, which is a sick longboard mal/beginner spot. And then literally a few meters away, you've got Echo Beach, which is got like punchy, wedgy, like beach break peaks. It's got a left reef on one side of it and a right reef on the other. So within a few hundred meters there, you've basically just got fun waves for everyone. And I guess there's a few other spots as well between that. Nusa Lembongan is also a wicked place to check out. There's a few different reef breaks there that work, especially when the swell gets a bit bigger. But yeah, basically all of these spots that I've mentioned, they are in Bali, so it's busy basically wherever you surf. I mean, there's definitely some lesser known spots that you can head to, but for the most part, you're going to be surfing with other people in Bali. So jumping over to the next island, we've got Lombok. So Lombok is famous for Desert Point, which, you know, we've all seen the videos of just endless reeling left-handers, freaking absolutely insane. Only works on like the biggest swells, and I've always been too scared to go over there because it just looks so shallow and so crowded, and yeah, I'm not that good at riding backside barrels, but yeah, I'll definitely go there one day. And then in south of Lombok, you've got like the Kuta Lombok area, which is a really cool zone. It's quite rich in waves. Most of them I found are kind of like intermediate friendly, like reef breaks. You've got Gerapuk, which is like a right-hand point, and it's got like an inside and outside. You've got Pantai Maui, which is like an A-frame reef. So there's a little bit of something for everyone. And if you want to find out more information about Kuta Lombok, check out my complete guide, which I'll leave up there. Then heading east again, we've got Sumbawa. So Sumbawa, again, another famous surfing island in the west. You've got waves like Yo-Yos and Super Suck, Scar Reef, all of those like amazing waves, like really hollow, really powerful, like some of the best waves in the world on the right day. And then on the other side of the island, you've got Lakey Peak. I've never seen so many waves in such a small area as at Lakies. You've got like the peak, then you've got pipe, nungas, cobblestones, periscopes, all these amazing waves in literally within a few hundred meters. So if you're looking for somewhere to just rock up to and do nothing but surf and it be really easy to get waves like right out front of where you're staying, Lakes is exactly that. But heading back west, we've got Java. In the jungle of Java, you've got G-Land, which is one of the most famous waves in the world. I've never surfed it personally, but absolutely incredible wave, really hollow, crazy like freight train barrels when it's working. One of those places that everybody wants to surf at least once in their life. All across the coast of Java, I mean, I'm sure there's so many different surf spots because absolutely, it's a huge island. Many of them are not well known, so I'll let you go off and explore that sort of West Javan coast on your own. But then next we reach Sumatra. I guess in South Sumatra you've got like that Krui region where like the heavy Mandiri beach break is, which is, I've surfed it a few times and it's pretty amazing, really heavy, really hollow. There's a few left, there's like Krui Peak there as well. You've got Uyung Bakor, which is like a left-hand point break where they have the QS contest every year. It's a pretty remote place, like it takes ages to get there. You've got to fly to Bandar Lampung, I think it's called, and then it's like a 6-hour drive through the jungle. But once you get there, it's just an awesome setup. And then I guess blocking that sort of main west coast of the Sumatran mainland, you've got the Mentawai Islands, which, you know, need no introduction when it comes to world-class waves. Some of the most perfect and best waves in the world, you know, places like Lancer's Right, Macaronis, Playgrounds, Bank Vaults, all of those waves. Just like the quintessential perfect setups, I guess. I know I said this about everywhere in this video, but it's one of those places that you've got to go to at least once, whether you're staying on land or whether you're doing a boat trip. You've got to go and sample some of those waves because there really is like nowhere else like it. So I just want to interrupt this video to let you know about today's sponsor. Now today's sponsor is Stoked Surf Adventures. Now Stoked Surf Adventures have surf camps and surf experiences all over the globe, including some of Indo's top destinations. With camps in Bali, Java, Nusa Lembongan, the Mentawais and beyond. They even run a full surf instructor course as well. So if you want to improve your surfing, score really good waves in Indonesia, check out Stoked Surf Adventures. I'll leave the link down in the description, but for now, let's crack on with the video. Getting around in Indonesia, best way to get around, especially if you're traveling between islands, is by flying. You know, you can find cheap domestic flights in Indonesia for under $100. You know, you can fly between Bali and Lombok, Bali and Sumbawa, Bali Sumatra, Bali Jakarta, Padang. You can use Bali as kind of like a base or a hub and then go and explore everywhere else from there. That's what I'd recommend doing. So flying, definitely the best way. If you haven't already, check out my Indonesian airline baggage guide where I break down what it costs to take boards with you on all of these flights, because there are a few little extra charges involved. You know, even though the flights are cheap, you end up paying quite a bit more just for your boards. If you're on one island, by far the best way to get around is just by motorbike. You know, they're very, very common in Indonesia. So, you know, if you're in Canggu or Uluwatu, Nusa Lembongan, Sumbawa, you kind of just want to have a motorbike just so you can nip between the surf, the restaurants, bars, your accommodation. It's just the easiest way to get around. Alternatively, you can hire a car, but just because of the traffic in most of these places, it's really hectic to drive, and if you're in a big vehicle, you can't weave in and out of the traffic and everything just takes so long. But that said, the roads are dangerous in Indonesia, especially in Bali, because there's so much traffic, and compared to like Western countries, the road safety is, well, basically non-existent. Some of the overtaking that happens on the roads and maneuvers that drivers do are pretty insane, and then you've got tourists who are like, I guess, overconfident, driving on the roads and pretend they've driven a bike when they never have. It's just kind of a recipe for disaster, so definitely be careful on the roads. Like, I can't stress that enough. I mean, it's so easy to rock up to Bali for the first time and be like, yeah, I know how to drive a moped, done it before, yeah, and be so blasé. But I mean, it's all good to think like that until there's a serious incident, right? So yeah, definitely be careful on the roads, but at the same time, getting a bike and just kind of being careful with how you drive is the best way to get around and score waves. Alternatively, if you don't want to drive, in Bali you can use something called Gojek, which is like a moped version of Uber. I'm not actually sure if you can take boards with Gojek, so that's something that you'll have to check out. Please let me know in the comments if you can take boards on the back with Gojek. I don't think you can because I never see it. Also, you can take ferries between the islands. If you're on a tight budget, this can be cheaper than flying. For example, if you go from Bali to Lombok or even Lombok to Sumbawa, you can get cheap local ferries, which, you know, aren't always very glamorous, but they're a really affordable way to get around. As far as accommodation goes in Indonesia, now you've got so many different options. I always use booking.com and Hostel World. Like in Bali, basically whichever surf town, whether you're in Uluwatu, Canggu, Lembongan, you've just got options for everything. Like you've got cheap like backpacker hostels, or you've got private rooms. For hostels, I'd recommend checking out Hostel World, whereas if you want something a bit fancier or a bit more private, you've got booking.com. And then I guess the same goes for like the other more remote islands, like in Sumbawa, in Lombok. I would always use booking.com. In these places, like in Enquiries, in Lombok, you've got less choice than you have in Bali, but at the same time, you know, you're still gonna find something within your price range. If you're visiting for a short time, so 1 month or under, you can get a tourist visa on arrival. If you're from most countries, it costs $35. You can pay that in cash or by card when you get to Bali. If you want to stay for longer, you can stay for up to 2 months. So you can either get to Bali, get the 1 month visa and then extend it whilst you're there, or you can do this before you land in Bali. So I'll leave the link in the description where you can get your 2-month e-visa before you arrive. This is definitely the best way to do it because it costs a little bit more. I think it costs around 120 US dollars. But it just saves you all the hassle of sorting your visa out whilst you're here. If you try and extend your visa off your own accord, you have to go to immigration 3 times. You have to go once to like submit paperwork, 2 to get fingerprints, and 3 to pick up your passport. So it's just a nightmare. You've got to drive in and out of Denpasar all the time. There's traffic. It's just such a faff and just takes up so much time. Obviously, all the spots that I've mentioned today are super crowded because they are super famous. And what do you expect for like a destination like this, you know, that well established on the surfing map? Most of like the best spots have all got sort of like a hierarchy as well. You've got like the top locals, like pros, advanced surfers, intermediates. You've got this whole like mix. So it gets pretty crazy. It's a pretty hectic place to be, especially like Ulu's when it's good or Keramas when it's on. And then the same goes for like world-class waves as well, like the Mentawais, for example. When I was at Lancer's Right, on the best day, there was like 50 guys out. It was like 4 to 6 foot, but there's really long gaps between the sets. So frustrating to surf. And I guess that's the same for a lot of other world-class breaks as well in Indonesia and around the world. And then costs. So cost of living is a lot lower than most Western countries in Indonesia. I mean, Bali, you can stay at really plush hotels and eat at nice restaurants here. So you can actually end up spending more than you would at home. But if you make it cheap, like if you stay somewhere modest, if you eat at the local roadside places, you can, you know, live really cheaply in Bali. If you've just got a moped, you know, you can drive around, petrol's really cheap, surfing's obviously free if you've got your own board. So you can do it cheap, you've just got to make it cheap. You know, it's really easy to be drawn to like the fancier looking places because they look cleaner and there's more Westerners there. So you end up going there and you go, oh, okay, it's only like $4 or $5 for a meal. I'll get that and then I'll get a drink. And then before you know it, you've like spent $10, $15 anyway. It's like really easy to do that. But if you force yourself to go, okay, I'm just gonna go to the local like roadside place, get nasi goreng for like $1 or $2, just do that all the time. You can do it cheap and staying in dorm rooms as well. So it's whatever you make of it really and whatever your budget. And then other things to do other than surfing in Indonesia, I mean, there's just such beautiful beaches. So just hanging out at some of the beaches is amazing. Snorkeling, diving, you've got all of that. It's also one of the most volcanically active places in the world. So you've got volcanoes, you've got amazing like hikes and walks that you can do. I mean, not that I've done many of them, but yeah, there's just so much to check out. It's such a big country. So if you're looking for somewhere just to surf your brains out, be in the tropics, do it for relatively cheap and see some other cool things, like it's just the best surf destination in the world, really. I mean, I don't know what else I can say like to convince you like how good it actually is. But yeah, I hope this has given you kind of like an overview of everything you need to know about surfing in Indonesia. Any questions, please fire away in the comments down below. But for now, it's goodbye from me. So please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next episode.